Welcome, everybody, back to another Boldcast podcast discussion for One Piece. And today we are going to be talking about the Whole Cake Island arc and the Reverie arc, both of which were very good, and we got a lot of good questions for them, so I think this might be a good one. And we'll start it off with the first question, which comes from Nicholas LeBlanc, who asked, will Carson or Lindsay be wearing a nun outfit for the podcast?
You know, we thought about it and we decided against it. We thought that would be a bit much. So we decided not to.
Yeah. It was tough. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't worthwhile. So, unfortunately, we'll be moving on to the next question from Daniel Assis, who asked, as someone who's been in the community for a long time, I've always felt that this arc is underrated because of Big Mom's and Whole Cake Island's Alice in Wonderland inspired aesthetic. Some fans say it doesn't feel like One Piece, but I disagree. Yet, it is still one of the most unique arcs in the series, with a melancholic ending instead of the usual celebration, and some of the few real deaths in the present-day story. As the first Yonko crew to be fully explored as villains, do you think that Oda delivered the level of threat and hype the Big Mom pirates deserved? Did this arc give you any characters you'd like to see return? And overall, did it surprise you more positively or negatively?
I think it was threatening. I think it did surprise me. I think that it did hold up more than I expected. Not everyone was held up quite as much. But overall, I'd say that, like, compared to most, like, pirate crews and villain crews, definitely a lot more. I feel like he stuck to his guns a lot more. Mm-hmm. He created, like, opportunities to kill off, characters and set it up from the beginning and then stuck with it. And that was very admirable. Usually he would, like, chicken out. So, yeah, I feel like overall, definitely a W for Whole Cake Island. It's definitely a lot more. And the Alice in Wonderland aesthetic, I think, worked in its favor big time. I'm really surprised that a lot of people don't like it.
I think to me, it's just this arc and like the aesthetic. I think that he was able to kind of do a redo of something like Thriller Bark, but just take it to the next level and really like follow through on all the characters. Because that was one of the things with Thriller Bark. I always remember when we first started it, we were like blown away. We were like, oh my god, this like Scooby-Doo style. It feels so different. It's so cool. It's just the whole vibe. It was totally different than anything we'd encountered before. It was so cool. But then I found that a lot of the villains, all of the crew, Perona ended up being kind of cool, but all of the other ones kind of fell flat. And Moria wasn't that crazy. Oars was kind of cool, but and just none of it really lived up to the excitement that I felt at the start of the arc. And I feel like with Whole Cake Island, I had that same feeling of like, oh my god, they're coming out with a song. There's all these flowers and trees singing and dancing. The forest is moving around. Everything's made of candy. It's like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory kind of vibe. So cool. And then as we progressed through the arc, sure, there was some moments where things were a little bit slower or like the same thing kind of got done over and over, but it felt like it kept becoming more cool. It felt like there was always something new, and everything that was new added to the aesthetic and made it, more threatening and more it felt bigger. It didn't feel like as we went into it, it felt smaller and smaller. It felt like as we went into it, it really did open up. And there was a whole world here and whole backstories and whole character dynamics between all of the different, children of Big Mom and, their own little cliques and groups within it. It was very cool. And I feel like it really did follow through on not only the intimidation factor, but also the scale. Like we've been told all the time, the emperors are huge. They have huge crews. They have massive fleets. They have whole, like, seas and lands that are under their control. And I feel like you really did get the sense that it was a lot bigger than, something like in Dressrosa with Doflamingo, even though that was a pretty big operation. Mm-hmm. Big Mom still felt a lot more expansive, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I think overall it was a success. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it set up really well the expectation of an emperor versus a warlord versus someone like Luffy who got called in the newspaper as like, oh, the next emperor, but we can clearly see that he is not on that same level of what that requires. The next question is kind of similar, but it is from Noel05, who asked, what do you think of Big Mom as a character and as a villain? Because she is often described as a great character, but a mid-villain, which I personally think is wrong because she is one of the scariest characters in the show with this power.
Yeah, I can see why. Like, I think the reason why is interesting that it's interesting to me that she's called like a mid-villain. I think it would probably the only reason I could see why most people would think that is just because she doesn't have like the aura of someone like Kaido or whoever. You know, she doesn't like Doflamingo and Kaido or people like that. They're like cool, and I feel like that is what people really want out of a big villain. So when you see like a mom, like a big fat old lady who is like all about eating food and throwing a temper tantrum, a lot of people think that that's like mid. But I think the horror factor of her like being this kind of Black Widow figure that like is taking all these husbands and killing them or throwing them aside and eating her children basically, even if that one guy like technically, I feel like that was a really easy one to let him die when they brought him back. But like, you know, that type of shit, like I feel like that is more chilling than a lot of the things, a lot of like the just evil shit that some other villains do just because they're evil.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't think that I think that she's a great character. I think, again, I still think that her backstory is like my favorite backstory. Because of just how well it's written and the writing quality. I know like a lot of the comments were coming back saying like, oh, you know, people really most people judge One Piece backstories on like their emotions and stuff like that. I guess I'm different because I really think that it wasn't as heart-wrenching and emotional as a lot of the other backstories. But, you know, I'll take Big Mom and and her, as far as like how good of a character I think she is. Like, I think this is why I think she's a good character and a good villain. But her backstory was, I'll take her backstory that's like set up in like really interesting ways and using perspective to your advantage and surprising you with you know, the bubbles like floating off with her friends and stuff like that, and then her being alone and like did she get the devil fruit there, all that type of stuff that we talked about in the episodes, and how the framing of her whole backstory and all the things that reveals to us about the greater lore and her own character and like mysteries about, you know, what she even is. You know, why she's like that, if there is a reason, like the fact, you know, the things that are left up to our interpretation and that you know, are easier to explain or theorize about, and then there's other things that are like, you know, will that ever be explained? I'll take that over watching Sanji, and I know a lot of it was you know, anime padding, but like watching Sanji get beat up by his brothers like for the 20th time in like a few flashback episodes, and then him once again getting like foiled during their training and like being called a piece of shit again, you know, like at a certain point stuff like that just gets like it loses its impact, and it might be more like emotional, but it's it doesn't have that same use of like framing and stuff like that, unless with Sanji's like kind of a rough example, because there was kind of foreshadowing of that going all the way back to when we learned about whatever Noland. So anyway, that's not a perfect sort of comparison, but you know what I mean. It's like I'll take Big Mom and all that stuff going into her character, and yeah, I think that she was great. I think she's a great villain and a great character. But definitely, I can see that people think that she's a better character than she is a villain. I think that all of her stuff about family, all of her stuff about like the diversity and like, you know, seeking perfection or like having high standards, like these allegories to like a real like toxic mother relationship where she is like, oh no, you have long limbs, you gotta fix your limbs. Pudding, I'll use your third eye for, you know, my own machinations, but hide it from me because it's not pretty. You know, like that shit that speaks to like real relationships people have with their parents, and you know, I think that there's a lot more going on there than just aura farmy. Say like people love Doflamingo, but like say Doflamingo, like
Rob Lucci, for example.
Rob Lucci is that's a very extreme version.
Yeah.
But like somebody I'm picking like another big villain that a lot of people love, Doflamingo. I feel like there's so much more thematically and morally going on with Big Mom than there is with Doflamingo. If you go back to Doflamingo's backstory, it's kind of just like he was just a piece of shit, and he was like kind of the anti-Luffy in a way that Blackbeard wasn't, but he's just kind of a fucking asshole, and that's kind of it. He was like he's a piece of shit. He was born a piece of shit, and he was bitter as a little kid, and yeah, he got like tortured, but other characters have been tortured and they didn't have that same thing. There's more I'm minimizing Doflamingo in this comparison, and I don't really mean to, because there is more to him, but if we're comparing the complexity and the intrigue of the themes going on with Doflamingo to Big Mom, I think Big Mom has so much more to offer. It's so much more of an interesting character.
I think part of the thing is Big Mom being one of the best characters, I think, in all of One Piece. One of the most interesting characters and most complex characters. I think that elevates her as a villain. Yeah. But I even think that without that, before we even learned her backstory, every time we saw Big Mom, I was impressed and intimidated by her. Like, she would do something, like when she was fighting Brook, and it's just like nothing could touch her. And the way that she behaves and the way that she, treats things kind of like a game, like she's not just like, oh, I'm being evil. She's just selfish, and she's doing things in her own way, but she's kind of tricked herself in some circumstances that she's not, or like, oh yeah, I'm making a great place with a great life for everyone in terms of what I think is the best thing. Mm-hmm. I feel like her being an interesting character elevates her as a villain. But I do think that as a villain, she was still impressive to me before we got her backstory. Mm-hmm. But I think that all of the complexities and the tragedy, and I think what's really interesting about her as a villain is I think today we get a lot of villains that have the tragic backstory, because her backstory really is a tragedy. She was abandoned by her parents, and then she accidentally killed all of the people that she loved, and then was manipulated by a grown man into, doing what he wanted and building up her empire. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but before that, and she didn't even know, but Mother Caramel was already manipulating her and using her for her own gain, and she thought that was the one person who loved her and trusted her. So her backstory really is a tragedy. But I think what's interesting about it is, because she's so complex, you can feel bad for her, but it's not like, oh, she's just misunderstood and she's doing her own thing. It's like, that's kind of true, but there was always something kind of like wrong with her, like from when she was a kid, and she didn't really understand the line between helping someone and hurting them, and if things were different, she was always just like, oh, I'll just fix it like this, and not caring that she's like about to rip someone's arms off, or mm-hmm. Do all these things that normal people would be like, oh my god, I'm hurt. Even if a normal child was like, oh, I'm just gonna rip this person's arm off, once they could see that it was hurting them, they would be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. Mm-hmm. And once someone explained that to her, she was kind of able to understand it, and she's like, oh yeah, I don't want to hurt you, because she didn't. But it was just, part of that is it just makes it very interesting to me. I still think that's really, it makes it really creepy, because she is trying to be a good person, mm-hmm. but kind of against her own nature to consider other people's feelings. Mm-hmm. The next question is from Indy Bruning, who said, do any of the songs from this arc stand out to you specifically? Do you have any favorites?
When they're starting the wedding cake chateau thing, to me, that was like a big moment, but like the songs are kind of just them like turning words into like how you would sing to a baby, mm-hmm. of just like singing what you're doing. Like mm-hmm. They weren't like choreographed real things. They just kind of took what they had and made them songs, so it's not like, oh, this is a banger, like, I'm not gonna be like that.
I will say, I think the best one was the one at the end.
Oh yeah,
where they were tying in the first of all, the very first one was awesome, because it was like a surprise. It was a surprise. And then some of the other ones were really good because, you know, every time there was one, it was like, oh, this is really exciting. And I feel like they all added, but that finale, when they were, like, flashing back and forth.
It had, like, cinematic quality to it, yeah.
That was, like, one of the most intense and, like, artistic and, like, well-directed parts of one. Like, every aspect of it was working together so well. Like, the emotions were really high. The soundtrack was, like, carrying big time the choices of, like, when to cut back and, like, what to cut back and what everything was kind of meaning. It was so cool.
Yeah,
that was really good. That was like epic.
I forgot about that somehow. I forgot that how they tied everything in and the direction. That's the biggest thing in One Piece is the best parts are directed well, and then it makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. It's such a peak and valley type thing with that because it's always like, oh, this is your favorite moment. It was probably because they like chose to give it, you know, really strong direction. Yeah, it's crazy. That part was really good.
100 Rainy said, in the past, you guys would sometimes comment about how you wished Brook would get more shine to feel more integrated with the crew, and you expressed similar sentiment towards Frankie. Many fans consider Whole Cake Island to be an excellent showing for Brook and label him as the arc MVP. Much like how Dressrosa gave Frankie some choice character moments, Whole Cake Island does the same for Brook. Are you satisfied with Brook's place on the crew now, or are there still some things lacking for you?
I think all of those things are true at the same time. I think that it's approaching it. It's like 95% of the way there. I think the problem with Brook is just a consequence of how and when he was introduced. I don't know if there's anything that Oda could do to like unwrite what he's already written. It's like he was with the Straw Hats for like 2 weeks or like a couple days or something. I forget how long. And then 2 years apart, and then he like goes back to the Straw Hats. And I think that like is always going to be something with Brook. But as far as this arc, I think that, he definitely feels a lot more. I think partially what maybe, I don't even know. I think I love Brook. Lindsay's the one with the problem with Brook. Don't come after me. I love Brook. Lindsay's always hated on Brook. She's hated on Brook since the beginning. I've always loved Brook. But I think that part of why somebody could be forgiven for feeling like there's still a little bit of the distance there, is because a lot of his badassery was done by himself or with Pedro, who's now dead and wasn't a member of the Straw Hats. So I think that if he had done all of that as a duo with like Nami going to steal stuff because she's like a cat burglar, that would be. I think that it would close the gap even more. I think also it's also not even Brook's fault because we get like Jinbei kind of joining the crew officially this time. Yeah. And again, it's like Jinbei feels as a part of the crew as like Nami or Usopp or Sanji, like the original crew. Whereas you look at somebody like Brook and it's always, I think it just boils down with Brook. It's not even a consequence of writing. It's just the fact that he's a skeleton and doesn't have a face. So it's harder to like place him. I think there's all these little minute things that I don't think are they're not criticisms or problems. But as far as Brook being the MVP, I think he absolutely is. I think that his scenes were some of my favorites of the arc, but I also have always loved Brook, and Lindsay has always hated Brook. So, don't come after me. The bus. You can throw yourself under the bus like you're about to right now.
I think that Brook in this arc, I feel like it really did a lot to integrate him into the crew. I do agree that I think if he had been on like in a duo with someone else, I think that that's like part of the reason why some characters are able to feel more integrated with than others. It's like the little moments where two characters will be teamed up for something, like even in Thriller Bark at the start when Nami, Chopper, and Usopp get teamed up and we get to see their kind of like their three as a team, their dynamic and all their similarities and differences between those three of them. And when Robin and Chopper were like kind of together at some points earlier on when she was more first introduced to the crew, I feel like those are some kind of building blocks. And I think that as the crew has expanded, there was just less time because there's also side characters like Pedro and Carrot and Peckhams and every single other side character that they take up a little bit of screen time, or we have the, the duo of Nami working with King Bomb. And, that is, like, he's a different character that she's, like, kind of enslaving, kind of teaming up with the whole time. And, I think Brook, it did a lot. I think that what I really liked was seeing more of him using his ability. I think that...
Yeah. That was a big deal, too. Yeah.
I think that was one of the things... Not only was him just feeling, like, a little bit more separated from the group, not being able to tell, like, oh, this person is, like, his best friend on the crew, or, like, this is his, like, duo in this moment.
You can tell Zoro and Chopper have, like, a special bond, or Chopper and Robin, or Nami and Usopp have, like, a particular kind of relationship.
Yeah.
Like, everybody has those little bonds.
And I think
or
that
Robin and Frankie.
there's some, like, Brook and Chopper get some stuff, but I feel like...
I want to... Like, I think that if we had seen... And we get less of those scenes... Sorry, I'm interrupting you, but you get less of those scenes of, like, there's the crew interacting like we did earlier on, but, like, a scene of Brook making tea while Sanji is, like, cooking. Maybe we've already seen that. Shit like that. I don't know. It's... anyway. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I feel like... what was... missing was, like, seeing, like, how he was a little bit different from everyone else, or, like, being able to see him use his powers and really shine in a moment. I think that did a lot for Frankie last time, seeing what he really cares about. So I think that this arc did a lot for him. I still feel like I want to see just, like, a little bit more, not necessarily any, like, development or or him doing something, like, cool. I just want to see him have more moments just hanging out with everyone else. But at the same time, that's hard because at the point of the story that we're in, there's just not a lot of those moments. There's less of that going around. As in earlier One Piece, we got a lot more of that. But I do think that this arc did a lot. Like, I feel like it made him feel a lot more like part of the crew. And I think, like, what you were saying with Jinbei is, I think because Jinbei, we had an entire arc that, like, he was one of the only people around Luffy. Like, you know what I mean?
I think maybe that's it. Like, that I think that might be it.
Luffy haven't, like, teamed up?
They haven't had, like, a moment for themselves. And I think maybe that's the same with Frankie because of just how Water 7 and Enies Lobby went. It's like Frankie and Luffy weren't hanging out one-on-one as much. And I think that might actually be it. Because we see that with every other crew member. Even, like, Chopper, when they're getting patched up in the castle. Like, I go back to that. Or Robin... when Luffy's, like, saving Robin and they're, like, walking around and she's, like, thinking about them sailing on Sanji and Usopp, or, like they're, like, sitting on top of them during the Foxy pirate fucking Davy back fight, if you remember? Her, like, thought bubble pops up and then it's just, like, them smiling together or whatever. Like, we get moments... I think that actually is a huge point that I'm not... Because that's maybe why Jinbei feels so strongly a part of the crew, is because
he has that
his whole arc... Like, his whole introduction was an entire climactic arc of him protecting Luffy... and then, like, being a kind of a mentor to him afterwards. So maybe that's it. Maybe we need Luffy and Brook to spend, like, an arc broing out, but we never really got that. And now they're all a part of the crew, so it's like, maybe it's as simple as that. It doesn't really have anything to do with all the other shit that we've been saying. It could just be that simple,
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not, especially after this arc, seeing him, like, get some moments... I feel like that's good, because I feel like we never focused on him that much. So I'm happy regardless, but I think that, I hope that as the story goes on, we will get some more of him. And
to me, with, like, just bringing up Frankie, I think with Frankie, what nerfed his, like, crew potential, or, like, being like a true member of the crew, or feeling like it at least. Obviously he is. But, on the same level as, some of the other crew members, it was his just character design change. I think that if he was walking around with, like, a subtler design change, or hardly any change at all, maybe, like, if he changed his hairstyle but his body style was the same, or, the fact that he went a complete overhaul and just looks like a completely different guy, I think that heavily impacts, I think it is that simple. I think that if post time skip were walking around with a guy that looked like pre time skip Frankie, it wouldn't look so jarring and it wouldn't look so different.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And, like, sometimes that's all it comes down to is, like...
Which is why I think, like, maybe that the skull thing, like the skeleton thing, that might play a role, but whatever. I love them both, so it doesn't really matter.
I also like Brook. You're just acting like I hate Brook. I do not hate Brook. Rune asked, we usually get the crew divided. That's just how arcs really go. Now major arcs take this to another level with Dressrosa and Whole Cake Island having only half the crew plus Luffy. Which do you prefer, the Dressrosa half of the crew or the Whole Cake Island half of the crew in terms of their roles in their respective arcs? I feel like this is...
That's like, can you even compare that? Like, you'd have to, I don't even know how you compare that. Like,
I feel like it's hard because I feel like they accomplished, because we were just talking about Brook and Frankie, I feel like they accomplished similar things because I feel like we had the two guys that were like a little bit not as integrated into the crew or not as focused upon, Frankie and Brook. They got real big moments where they like were off on their own and they were like doing something that they believed in, you know? I feel like we got that from both arcs. And then we also got Nami and Usopp kind of having like a second like some big moments for them. We had Usopp with the whole like he had to be the Sniper King and it like all came down to him in Dressrosa, and that was really good, and it, gave a lot of confidence, and he was Usoland and all that, and he was God Usopp, and like he kind of had like a lot of focus, which is good because I feel like he's been with us since pretty much the beginning, and sometimes it feels like it's nice to give them a bit more action. Same in this time with Nami, where I feel like Nami got a lot of moments. She got to have the Lola's card and be bossing around all the homies, and she got to kidnap Zeus and lightning strike Big Mom and have some, she was kind of in her element a little bit. So I feel like that was the same. I think what maybe takes if you could put one above the other would be, I think Whole Cake Island might be a little bit better just because we also had Sanji and his whole character development and a huge arc for him, whereas Dressrosa didn't really have one of the Straw Hats like going through a major emotional climax like that. I will be interested to see, though, speaking, like, kind of, we haven't really talked about, like, the future very much, but I'd be interested to see, since we've kind of had a revisitation of a lot of the original crew, if in Wano we're going to get some more of Zoro, and he is going to get a bit more of an arc, because it's all about swords, and, that's obviously more his thing, and he didn't really do, it's not like he was useless or anything, but, like, I feel like he wasn't really focused on as much in Dressrosa. He was just...
He had the Pika fight.
He had the Pika fight, but which was kind of just, Yeah. I don't think it really grew his character or anything to fight Pika.
Yeah. Yeah, he hasn't had, like, a big... I mean, since the time skip, but, like, in an arc since Thriller Bark. Yeah.
So I think... I would really like it, I think, if we kind of got more of him in Wano. I think that
agree.
Would be cool.
Yeah, I think that we speaking of that, like the thing of Zoro makes me think of Sanji and how we just had, like, before, around the time of the time skip, we had a big thing with Sanji from time skip onward, Fishman Island era, where we were just like, what the fuck is even Sanji anymore? Like, he's the biggest character assassination ever. Like, he's just dumb. And then Dressrosa, we got a little bit, and it was like, okay, Sanji isn't so bad. And then now we get his whole backstory, and it's like peak. And so now I feel satisfied with where Sanji is. But now it's been so long, because these arcs take so long to make, that I'm feeling like, oh, well, now we haven't really seen Zoro in a while. Like, I feel like we haven't really got anything from him in a long time.
Yeah.
And, I would like to see more from Chopper, too, but I kind of doubt that we will. We might see a little bit. Maybe we will.
That we might...
Oh, because the cherry blossoms and shit. I bet that's going to come up while we're in Wano. The land of cherry blossoms.
That would be cool. I think it could also be interesting... Yeah, I guess. Yeah, like in Wano, or if we're gonna go, because if we go through, if we get to Elbaf eventually, like that's gonna be about Usopp.
Yeah.
And then maybe there'll be something like after that, or even tied into that. Maybe Chopper will get some in Wano and some there. Like I don't know where it's gonna go. And we did have like some of Chopper in Punk Hazard, but that felt like not on the level
Yeah,
of...
it wasn't so front and center. It was like a little bit with the kids and stuff.
Yeah. It was still good. It was similar to, like, Nami and Usopp in these arcs, where it's just kind of like a reestablishment of their character.
Yeah.
And, like, keeping them strong and giving them a few moments to, like, have the spotlight.
Yeah.
Daniel asked, since the Straw Hats were split up, if you could swap one Straw Hat from the Dressrosa group into the Whole Cake Island, who would you choose and why? I would also like to hear your thoughts on the new characters introduced in this adventure, especially Carrot and Pedro. Personally, I love Carrot, but do you think they were good additions to the story?
I would swap Chopper and Robin, because Robin is an assassin who was trained to gather information and be stealthy, or not trained, but she lived that way for a long time.
I think that could be good, but I think that was my...
What did Chopper do this arc? Did Chopper do anything this arc at all? I'm trying to remember. Like, did he have a moment to shine at all?
I think that the thing about Chopper was him and Carrot.
In Mirror World against Brûlée. But I feel like that could have been anyone.
Yeah, you know? I think the thing...
I like Carrot and Chopper's relationship and how that grew. I think that's cute. But, you know, I could give that up to have Robin there. Because I like Robin. I think
that was my original thought, would be like, oh, Robin could be in it. But I think Robin being absent is what allowed Brook to have his moments, because he was the one who snuck in and he hid the poneglyph things in his skull. Whereas if Robin was there, she would have been the one to be sneaking in, and then she would have just been able to see it, and it wouldn't have been... You know, it wouldn't have given Brook some of the opportunities, and Pedro some of the opportunities. And if Pedro hadn't had that whole team dynamic with him and Brook, then it wouldn't have been so impactful when he died.
That's true.
And if we hadn't had Chopper there to become like brother and sister with Carrot, then Carrot's like emotions of being so upset about Pedro might not have landed so hard, because, you know, I think... Like, that's the one that most makes sense. So, like, I guess, but I think that overall the way that it was is...
I agree.
Is the right
I share the same opinion. I guess, I was more thinking if I was them and I was planning it out, like, who would go where. I definitely would rather have Robin along, because we were going to get the poneglyphs anyway. But yeah, as far as, like, you know, if we're talking about where the story went and how it all turned out, I think that it turned out better without her there, for sure. Yeah. I think it said more, you know.
SD Reunion says, this is kind of what we've already been talking about, I guess. As the plot gets more grand and epic, it's getting more and more difficult to provide equal development to each member of the Straw Hat crew. After watching Whole Cake, what Straw Hat member-focused arcs or flashbacks do you guys feel are necessary for the series to conclude in a satisfying way?
Usopp.
I think Usopp and Chopper and Zoro. And I would like some more from Nami as well.
And Frankie with Vegapunk.
And Frankie. And Robin, I would like something more for... I guess it's hard because I don't know, like, how long everything's going, so I don't know if we'll have to double up on some characters. Some people will get certain things at similar times, you know, because this was, like, all about Sanji, but we also had some stuff from Nami as well, and a lot from Brook. So I feel like with the cutting everyone in half for these two arcs did a lot to kind of, like, reestablish a lot of the Straw Hats. I think... It's hard to say towards the end. Towards the end, I would like to see, like, not only people have had, like, sort of a secondary arc about them, but also just enough reestablishment of their characters along the way that I still feel like they're the same people.
Yeah.
You know, or not necessarily the same, but that they, you know, continue.
I don't know if is there a question about, like, because I could talk about this now. I was thinking about this. Is there a question about... like arcs post time skip mirroring the arcs from pre time skip as far as Whole Cake?
I don't think that there was a question directly about that. There was questions about, like, which do we prefer, the pre or post time skip.
We don't need to get to that. My point was, like, because we were talking before about how, like, each arc kind of mirrored an arc from pre time skip. So, like, Dressrosa was like Alabasta, and or was like what was Skypiea? Skypiea was like Fishman Island. Just so it's, I guess that would be out of order. Regardless, this is kind of like Thriller Bark. So that would mean we're going on to Sabaudi, which is like where the time skip happens. So is Wano going to be like a Sabaudi type arc where we're just running around like hiding from people, or like, you know, and like the world government shows up, there's a big war going on, or probably won't be the world government because it's a different territory, but I guess that's it. We're going to be fighting Kaido. But does that mean then that after Wano, if we're going wherever, like, is it gonna be fucking Marineford 2.0 times? Like, there's only 300 or so episodes until we catch up, so like, you know, we're getting there, and I imagine we're getting towards the end. Like, I imagine, I can only guess like where, like I have no information to guess like where the timeline is towards the end, but my point as far as the character development thing, because you'd mentioned like people being the same once we actually get there, so it feels like impactful and that we're, you know, interacting with the same people we've interacted with. I think that's going to be a problem that that's something that we're kind of running into with the fucking Three Sultans of the Sea thing that I mentioned, and all this greater threat building. Like, we had the emperors, but now that's not like a big enough threat for the endgame, so now we're getting into the real endgame threats with like with fucking emu sama and shit. What was I saying? I think Oda's gonna have a real problem, because now he's gonna have to start stretching shit out, basically, because I don't think it's not gonna end anytime soon, and he's gonna have to give characters moments without changing them too much for that specific reason. Probably also not for like a intentional writing reason, but just because, you know, the series has been going on for so long. Do people want Chopper to have a character development and like change as a person? Do people want Robin to like go through like character growth and be a different guy? You know, like, or Nami, or like, nobody wants that, I don't think. Like, and I want to see that from Luffy, and Luffy grow. But as far as a lot of the side characters, I don't think most people would appreciate, you know, somebody getting over, like, somebody having another big arc and backstory. Like, I mean, you know, we had this with Sanji, where it's just like we went back over his backstory, and now he's like there's like a different thing going on with him, and we see him in a different light. You know, or are we gonna want that with everybody? Is there room for that with everybody? It's gonna be really interesting to see how Oda kind of paces things out heading in towards like the third act of One Piece here. That's something I've just been thinking about, because it was so like looking back, it's like pre-time skip was pretty clean towards from, you know, entering the Grand Line to the time skip. It feels like it happened, like things could have been plotted out a little bit cleaner for sure, but like, if you look at everything in hindsight, it's like things ended up in a pretty one after another straightforward kind of way, and it feels like it makes sense. And now we're getting, if we're following that same blueprint, if we were to apply it to like a more traditional storytelling format, where it's like we mirror the first thing and we have a trilogy and then a trilogy, like, for example, like a Star Wars type shit, then we're going to end kind of in a similar place that we ended at the beginning. But One Piece isn't going to end the same way. Like, it's not going to be like that. So there's going to be a lot more. And how do you elongate it while building it up, while not making it fluff and padding, or like stretching it out and making it feel like you're stretching it out? How do you make it more impactful without sacrificing that? I don't think that, you know, I don't think it's gonna get worse, because I know that I think we're getting, I think people are very hyped up about like a lot of the more modern One Piece shit. I think that's where a lot of the hype of One Piece comes from, and I'm excited for it. So I'm more interested to see how the story evolves and how it becomes more interesting, how it becomes more explosive.
Yeah, I also think that Oda, as we're going along, has been getting a lot better about, like, it's not that it was ever bad, but I feel like the arcs and like what he's trying to say and like the themes that are going on are just getting a lot more clear, and like in each aspect is saying multiple different things. Like, I feel like in this arc there was a lot about, you know, family and like parents, and there's siblings, like there's all these different like familial bonds basically, and it was very ambitious and complex, but it really landed, I feel like, whereas I think in some other arcs there's like some things being built up and it like maybe
I think that's Dressrosa because it was multiple arcs smushed together, like with all the Tuntata tribe, or was that how you say it?
Yeah.
All of them was like that they were gonna have their own arc, but then they got kind of piggybacked on top of Dressrosa, so there's like multiple things, and it's also more building up the Smile Factory and all this type of shit. So yeah, it becomes a lot more fucked up. But then you have like Germa and Big Mom Pirates, like all of her family, and they're both about like family hierarchy and all that type of shit, and they're together and they're swirling together and telling a story and working together to tell the story. And you're right, it is clearer. So what were you saying? It's getting clearer?
I was saying, like, I feel like we've talked a lot since the very first podcast, basically, I think, about how each arc, it seems like you can see the writing improving, or you can see Oda almost doing, like, a second draft of certain elements from something before. I feel like this arc is where I'm seeing, like, okay, he's, like, mastered almost how to effectively tell exactly what he's trying to convey, and in the most like not condensed but cohesive way, and a condensed way. There wasn't the things that felt dragged out in this arc didn't feel like anything to do with the writing. It felt like purely the adaptation was, you know, maybe dragging some things out, but everything else felt very solid and very thought through. So I think that it makes me really excited to go forward, because I feel like, okay, we're at the part of the story where he is like fully equipped to be like bringing back all of these details from the past and re-exploring them and adding in new things, and it just feels like everything's kind of like built up, and now we're like really locked in, is how it feels like to me. It feels like a lot of things were building up till this moment, and things have been building up for Wano since, I don't even remember when Wano was first mentioned, but it's been building up for a long time. And I think the episode that we saw, the last episode of Reverie, where we were heading into Wano, and the fact that they did all that like crazy animation with the waves and the, you know, all of the stuff, I feel like it just shows that, like, you know, this is epic, basically. It feels like we're going into the Grand Line for the first time. But the production and the level of storytelling are kind of like getting a little bit closer, you know, and I feel like it's just really working. Is how I feel anyway. But I guess we can get on to the next question, which is kind of interesting. Osama Esmadi asked, this is kind of an interesting question. I've always viewed Big Mom actually as a failed version of Luffy. Both build huge families, love food, and attract strange allies, and reshape islands around their desires. But Big Mom's dream of equality becomes authoritarian, while Luffy's freedom remains personal. Is Oda showing what Luffy could become if his hunger and charisma were corrupted?
Sure, man. I never thought of that, but yeah.
I think that's interesting. I think it's similar, and I think we talked about this at some point too, that Big Mom is kind of similar to like a Blackbeard type character almost.
Yeah.
It's like her, Luffy, and Blackbeard are all in this kind of thing of like, they're like, you know, kind of crazy, and they're like true pirates in the sense of like, you know, freedom, and they're like, they'll get what they want and they're not afraid to take it. But, and Luffy does almost have like a similar thing to Big Mom, or like almost like that Gon quality with him, where it's just like, oh, this person's it doesn't matter what they've done in the past, because they're my friend now, kind of thing. And that could be seen as similar to, you know, Big Mom's kind of disregard for like what other people are doing or care about. But it is different, and they do have a lot of differences. But I do think that, you know, they are similar, and I think that that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it also shows that, like, you know, Luffy had Shanks as an influence when he was a kid, and he also had Sabo and Ace, and he had Garp, and he had Dada, and he had all these people that genuinely cared about him and were good people, and like, you know, were helping him to be on the right path. And then we see Big Mom being manipulated time and time again. And it does kind of make you think, well, maybe things could have been a lot better for her if she had had guidance from someone who truly cared about her.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
We kind of already talked about this. Type Moon said, how's your opinion on Sanji change from this arc? Because this is where a lot of people think Sanji's character turned around from the last couple, where he had just been a pervert guy compared to what he was in the pre-time skip.
Yeah, I would be interested. Does anyone know if there was popularity polls that like made them like, was this an editor thing? Like obviously there was hints perhaps that like Sanji had more going on, or it could have just been like, oh, I heard that story because I grew up in the North Blue. That's it. That could have been built up for his Prince thing, or it could have just been him saying that he grew up in the North Blue and that he was traveling around on this ship before it sank. You know, like it could go one way or the other. So I'm not trying to get into the like, what was this planned from the beginning thing. I think it goes back to the whole you want to have every character have like a new backstory and like go through a new character development thing. I think that it's just a consequence of everything else that we were talking about like how long the story's going, how many characters there are. Is it better to add a new guy or explore an old guy more? Like we could have added another crew member and just, not instead of doing Sanji's thing. But it's all rooted from the same kind of issues or the not issues like they're problems, but like the consequences of having a story this long, having a cast this big, all that stuff, screen time, page real estate. Are you gonna have what's Sanji gonna do if he's just like in the background looking at a bunch of mermaids? Like, is he gonna not be a pervert? Like, this kind of like what his character is in a certain way. So then we get to this point where it's like we're not focusing on the side characters as much as we're heading towards the conclusion. Mm-hmm. So then people's like main tags kind of come out, and Sanji's was that he was a pervert. So while he's in the background doing all that, and then I like that's so I guess I'm asking, is there popularity polls that may have suggested to Oda or to his editors, we need more from Sanji and we need to like snake him out of the fire because everyone fucking hates him now because we had a couple like circumstantial places where it was reasonable for him to just be a pervert idiot and you turned that into a joke but you went too far or it was just annoying.
Here's what I think. I think that something more with Sanji was planned from the beginning. I think that the North Blue thing, like, I think that was real. I think, maybe he didn't know exactly what it was going to be at that point, and maybe it was going to be something a little bit different. But I think that there, like, was something more. But I think that I still don't really know what to even think about all of, like, the Fishman Island thing, because to me, that kind of seems like, I don't want to say, like, a mistake, but, like, almost, like, it just, like, got a little bit out of hand, or, like...
I think it was literally, like, what I said. It's just, like, you put a guy who's known for being a pervert, or known for, like, gooning over women, basically. Just, like, being super interested in women. You take him to the mermaid island, like, where it's all mermaids, and then he's getting nosebleeds all the time, because that's, like, his thing, where he gets hard eyes and nosebleeds. And then rather than, like, I've thought about this, like, since Fishman Island. I'm just like, was it a bad writing thing? Or was it just him trying to incorporate something that could have just been an annoying joke into the story? And then he incorporated it into the way where it was, like, foreshadowing this, like, blood transfusion thing with Luffy and Jinbei that was, like, so he turned something that was kind of, in a way, out of his control. Because that's just how, like, if Sanji's going to be there and you're going to show him, he's going to be freaking out over these mermaids. To not show that or to, like, not, like, do that at all would just mean, like, writing him out of the story completely. And that feels more of a dumb writing decision than him being there and being annoying. Because, like, if you write a story where there's a fucking gooner pervert guy and you go to the mermaid island and you're like, I'm going to just leave him out. He's off on his own solo mission. It just feels like, okay, well then what's the point of making him a pervert then? Like, you might not like that he does that or that it might be a bit much. And it was a bit much. I actually agree. But I'm saying, like, from a writing, like, if you're sitting down, you're the author, like, what are you going to do? Like, you've already created hundreds of chapters of this guy doing exactly what is expected. and so I think that was like what you're saying. It's just kind of unfortunate. I think that's the case. But it came at such a time where it was after the Thriller Bark fiasco, where he had that line about fucking, wanting the invisible fruit.
Yeah.
And he, was kind of already taking a backseat, and his time skip arc was already, like, kind of just weird. So I think that he just, like, had an aura failure. He stalled out his aura just based on circumstance alone. So... I don't like. There's a lot of things with Oda where I'm just like, he could have thought about that a little bit more. But I literally think what he did with Sanji was the best possible outcome as far as just writing the story that's in front of you and having the characters that you've built up and where the story is going. I feel like there was no mistake there. It just like was what it was. So I think that it's very good that he turned around where it is. But I don't really, like, it's one of those things where it's just like, I think that they're, I was annoyed too, but I also, like, I can't fault him at all for doing that, because it's just what Sanji would do. It's just the character being the character. And if people don't like that, it's kind of too bad. Like, he's already like that.
I think the thing is it was just so, like, it made him so one-dimensional, whereas pre-time skip, he had actually... been one of the more well-developed characters, and and I think that that's part of the thing of what they do really well with Sanji in the live action, is I feel like they make him a little bit more of like a real person. Like, they make him more like you can tell, like, he's very impressed and like kind of in awe of women, but not, and it doesn't come across in a creeper kind of a way. We said that.
You said that. I don't think Sanji's a creep.
No, but I'm saying, like, in Fishman Island, I feel like it just became like, okay, he's just doing that, and like all of his other character traits are kind of non-existent.
Yeah, well, it's just that, I mean, there's fucking 50 characters at this point, like what like that's what I mean by, like, he did what he had to do with Sanji in Fishman Island. I think that that's just what had to happen. I think that, like, he could have not made it a plot point. He could have not done the blood transfusion thing and just had his nose be exploding, and that's it. But he at least tried to make it part of the story and make it significant, and used it as a way to write him out so that it wouldn't just be the same joke for the entire arc. Mm-hmm. He was like knocked himself out because he lost so much blood. It's like, okay, he's away. So he did kind of like was able to write him out, but it was also in something that's with, and... Yeah, I think that I like Sanji. And looking back, it's like, I also didn't like watching him, but it's a really I'm just saying it's a really fucked up situation, because I don't think there's anything else Oda could have done better. And I think that it required a comeback arc, and we got it. Mm-hmm.
I do think that the comeback arc, I think, like, what the question was about is, like, was this... Did the comeback arc work in terms of his character? And
I think so,
yes.
And I'm sure there's more questions about this, but I think it did, and I think it's because we actually got significant romance with another character, and that's new. We don't get that. Like, we got that, and that is, so we got to experience something new with Sanji that we don't normally get. We didn't just get him being a cooler version of himself or something. It's like, we got kind of a lovesick, like, tragedy going on with him. This, like, Shakespearean sort of like, oh no, we can't be together, like, star-crossed lovers thing.
Or even,
and like, this tragedy where, like, I like it. I like it, and I like it because it's something good, but it's also something that we don't see. And it's something that Oda normally doesn't do, but he did it for Sanji when Sanji's character needed it most to be liked again. And it made him interesting. It makes me think about him more. It makes me, like, not just be kind of annoyed by him.
I think that his character within this arc is, I feel like, most similar maybe to his live action portrayal. And we talked about that a little bit.
Well, it's because the live action portrayal is informed by this arc.
Exactly, but I'm saying, like, I feel like this arc is where his character is, like, very fully kind of realized. Yeah. And, like, refined. And I think that you're right. Like, the romance with Pudding... It gives, like, this tragic kind of love story, and in any other circumstance, Sanji would have just been like, oh my god, I'm so hyped up because Pudding is, like, super cute and attractive. It's, like, literally his, like, perfect, ideal woman. She even kind of looks like Nami. But she, you know, he feels conflicted and he's still sad because he doesn't really want to marry her. It's like, okay, and then he feels bad of, like, oh, she is excited about this marriage. Okay, now I just need to, like, man up, and I just need to, you know, go through with it because I'm saving all of my friends, but I also need to, you know, make her feel like I'm not burdening her with that I hate her and don't want to marry her because it's not really her fault. And it adds a lot of complexity. And then when he knows that she's evil, and then he's still, like, when she's, like, in the dress, you're kind of like, okay, like, but he was still locked in.
Yeah.
He was just acting, of course. And then when the fact that he sees her, like, extra eye, and, like, I think, like, in that moment, it's like he sees her, and he doesn't just have a nosebleed, he doesn't just go crazy, he's just like, you're so beautiful, in a very genuine and honest way, but it's not just like, oh, he's so, like, overcome by her attractiveness. It's like he's recognizing her beauty even though she looks different than other people.
Yeah.
And I think that you know, it's like, it's not played for a joke at all, and I think that, you know, adds to it. I think you're right, there wasn't any questions about, like, that specifically, but I think allowing him to have that was able to show, like, because we see him just having a nosebleed every time he sees any girl, and then this very complex, like, arranged marriage kind of did a lot to show that he's not just like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, lose my mind because there's a woman around.
Yeah.
Another question from Daniel where he said, this might be a silly question, but now that we know Sanji's siblings, it feels like the perfect time to ask, and I never see anyone ask about this, and since it's my first time participating here on Patreon, I wanted to ask the most important question of all. Which side of Sanji's curly eyebrow do you prefer?
Oh, definitely the original one.
The original,
away
that's what
from,
you said too.
I think that, like, the choice to make it, like, pointing in makes him look too serious, I think. I think pointing out is more silly and whimsical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that it, like, in a way, I feel like it kind of grew on me throughout this arc because it was a little bit more serious of an arc and it kind of suited it. But the original was a better choice,
Yeah, 100%.
I think.
And just Sanji's whole look and hair, like how he was, like, thinner, how he had more of a, like, a lean to him, and his hair was straighter, not so, like, wild. Like, you know, it was, like, very whoosh, covering one side of his face. Yeah, I like pre-time skip Sanji's design is, like, incredible.
Niru asked, during the fight, Luffy instantly sees through Sanji's facade, screaming that Sanji is the one who is hurting the most. This shows an incredible amount of emotional maturity. If we compared this to Water 7, Luffy took Usopp's defiance personally, resulting in a devastating, prideful duel. How does the fight in Whole Cake Island showcase Luffy's growth as a captain? And do you think that he handled Sanji better because he understood Sanji's self-sacrificing nature? Or was the situation with Usopp fundamentally different because he wasn't forced by outside blackmail?
No, yeah, it's completely different because Usopp wasn't lying. He was telling the truth when everyone else was trying to, like, you know, he was speaking the truth in that moment and speaking his truth. He wasn't lying. He wasn't making up some fucking stories. He was bearing his fucking soul. And what he needed was to win or lose against Luffy honorably and prove himself and stake his claim. That's what he needed. And Luffy honored that by fighting him all out. And same thing here. What Sanji needed was for somebody to withstand being pushed away and still be there for him. So I think that, like, comparing them is interesting, but and I think comparing them is actually important because I forget whether it was in comments or whether it was on a live stream or something, but somebody asked us about, like, how I forget, was it this or was it something else, but about how these are just like a repeat, like it's just there's nothing new, it's just a repeat of previous shit. And, like, oh, you know, Sanji leaves is just like when Usopp left. It's absolutely nothing like when Usopp left. It's completely fucking different, and that's important. Because if it was, and trust me, If it was just like when Usopp left, you'd be hearing it from me, and I would be complaining about it. Like, it's not the same, and that's very important, because Oda does the same shit a lot, and it can get annoying. You know, like with the princesses, it's like there's always a fucking damsel in distress princess, and that's like this weird focal point of the arc that we can kind of pivot around to other goals. That can get annoying, but in this case, the crew member leaving, it's like with Nami or with Usopp, but it's not the same. It's more similar actually to Nami than it is.
Yeah, and I think it's also kind of similar to Robin as well a little bit.
Yeah. I think they actually were more talking about that, but same shit. I think that I think that it's good. It shows it's the fact that Luffy solves these conflicts in a different way each time is important.
And I think comparing it to Robin a little bit, like, you know, he went and like chased down Robin to the ends of the earth and like, you know, was like getting her back. But I think that him kind of allowing Sanji to come back on his own, like, he needed to make it known, like, we're not leaving. I will literally go on a hunger strike and stay right here. I
will go on a hunger strike, by the way.
I think that does show, you know, growth as a captain. I think that if he was constantly, like, actively trying to, like, grab Sanji and, like, drag him back to the ship, that wouldn't show very much maturity. But I think him doing exactly what the situation called for, letting Sanji know all the facts, and then just showing that he was still standing by him, I think that showed, I think it showed restraint, and I think that showed maturity as well.
Yeah, agreed. Approved.
Growlthader said, this arc completed many long-term setups. Jimbei and the Tamate Box from Fishman Island, Lola's Vivre card from Thriller Bark, North Blue Sanji and Jaya / Mr. Prince in Little Garden. What are your opinions on how the story handled these extended payoffs?
Good.
I think they're good. I think the box was really funny.
It was extra funny though because we forgot
we forgot that there was a bomb in it. So it was.
It's honestly better if you don't if you don't fully know. It's better if you like have an inkling of remembrance that there's a bomb in there.
But you don't know for certain.
Yeah, it's. I think that's funny. The best way to experience that moment by far. It was so funny.
I really liked Lola's card. I think that was awesome, and I think it was. I think that it was good to bring Lola back around. I like the inclusion of Chiffon, Lola having a twin sister, in amongst all of the other kids. I liked Lola being used again as, Big Mom's like former. She almost got her back in with Elbaf, and then it completely fell apart, and that's why she hates Lola. And then how it's extra sad too of that shows kind of Lola's naivety of. She's going around thinking, like, oh, take this card so you can go to my mom and she'll help you because my mom's the best and my mom loves me and she loves all of her children. Meanwhile, Big Mom is literally like, if I catch her, I will kill her. Chiffon, don't even come near me because you remind me of that bitch Lola.
Yeah. I liked it. I liked everything about it.
I thought that it was cool. I liked that it gave Nami some moments, to kind of be, like, her classic, like, bossy self that we, like, saw a lot of earlier on when she would just, like, boss people around. Yeah. I think that was really good because we don't get a ton of moments of her doing that just on the ship to Usopp and Luffy anymore. I think that was good. And we kind of already talked about Sanji, but I think that it was good. And I liked seeing all of these things kind of come back. It makes it feel like we're connecting to things and we're expanding, and it makes it feel like things are really getting thought out here, and it gives a lot of makes you kind of go over things with a little bit more fine-tooth comb, similar to like finding out about the sun god. We found out a little bit early by watching the live action season 2, but it felt like, okay, now I know that these details are here for a reason, and even if the reason is unclear, I need to like keep a little mental log of it, because it could be important later. So I think it's good. Clockwork 9000 said, with Pudding being the twist villain of the arc and then later redeemed, what are your final thoughts on her character? And do you agree with her final decision with what she did to Sanji?
Yeah, why not? I think it's just more dramatic. I like it because of that. Yeah, I like Pudding. I liked Pudding kind of the whole way through.
Yeah, I think what I really like about Pudding is she kind of was in the position of like the classic like princess dynamic that we were talking about before, but it was in a completely different way. And she had like this evil setup, but she wasn't actually evil. It added to the commentary about how Big Mom was like the devouring mother and like the super over controlling person, and people are trying to impress her, but they kind of can't. And even within this kingdom where everyone's supposed to be accepted, according to Big Mom, like, oh, I'm building a place that's for everyone, and then all the other kids are just bullying Big Mom's own children, as we also saw with Katakuri, that like they just don't care because Big Mom doesn't actually care that much about her own kids. And I think that Pudding being able to kind of reluctantly, kind of just like against her better judgment, understand that Sanji, is a good person and he cares about her, but she still does. I think that her removing the memories is because she, first of all, it's like to not cause problems for him, because him having feelings for him being more tied up with her just cause a lot of problems later on when they're probably going to run into each other again if Big Mom comes after Luffy or Luffy comes back to fight Big Mom. But I think it's also a little bit of this sort of self-sabotage of Pudding, is that she doesn't believe that she actually deserves to be with someone like Sanji because he's a really good person, and she's still really messed up.
Yeah, I like Pudding.
I think that's good. I think that she's really good.
What I liked about Pudding was the here's something about Pudding, is the people were saying that I saw a comment multiple times. It might have been from the same person, it might have been from a couple of people, but in our Patreon comments where people were upset that she got redeemed because they liked her as a surprise villain, and they liked how that was set up. And I can see that. I like the way that it ended up, but I can see that opinion because it was really well done because of what we talked about, how we're shown multiple examples of like daughters of Big Mom getting really attached to their husbands, and they just like completely don't give a shit. They're like so loyal to their husbands, they don't give a fuck about their mom or all those other people. That was more, I think, foreshadowing for like what happened with Katakuri, and the fact that people like that Big Mom sucks, or just how she is as a mom in general. And kind of underscoring that they, as soon as they experience love or any kind of relationship outside of their family, they're just like, fuck her, fuck all that stuff, that sucks. But they built up all these examples, like with Aladdin's wife and with Chiffon and all these other people. I think there were more examples than that. There were a couple more. Showing how ride or die they are. Then you see Pudding in Sanji, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, that's clear. It's like there's a track record here, and the fact that she is the opposite. It's like, oh, like that was intentional, red herring by Oda, and I really liked that because it sold that moment of her being a piece of shit even more. So the fact that she was redeemed doesn't undo all of that, which is why I still like the way, and because it ended up with the scene where she like erases Sanji's memories. I think that was very, very good. I liked all of it. I really am pleasantly surprised by Pudding, because I thought when we first went to her cafe, I was initially like, okay, here we fucking go. Like the same ship, different island. It's the same thing. We get another of these girls that are just, like. And I guess also Shirahoshi kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and Rebecca, as much as I kind of, I'm not super, I like Rebecca I like and dislike Rebecca. Shirahoshi, I like Shirahoshi, but she was kind of annoying. The quality of these princesses has gone down as time has gone on.
Vivi was peak.
Vivi was peak. And you could count even Nami in a way because of like how she was, endeared by the town and everything. She's like a kind of princess, although not exactly, not literally. But we get these princesses, and then it just like we're getting like it's like you're cloning the clone. It's like you're getting worse clones every time because you keep cloning a genetically inferior version. So when we saw Pudding, I'm just like, okay, we're just getting a normal girl with brown hair. Like, she doesn't even have she's not a mermaid. She's not like a gladiator princess, like with this, like, say what you want about the revealing armor. She was like fighting in this fucking scant armor, like with sword skills, and being really badass. All the other ones had something about them. This bitch is a fucking housewife, and she's just has brown pigtails.
Excuse me, she was the owner of a successful bakery.
Nepo baby, might I add. Built by her, basically by her family. Anyway, you get what I mean. It's like, we get like a bare bones version, and I can see it on the horizon. I'm just like, oh my god. I'm not gonna prejudge, whatever. You can't go into One Piece like that. Mm-hmm. But I was like another one. But then the fact that she was completely the opposite was very refreshing. Mm-hmm. And it ended off in even more depth than that, Because and because we kind of got something similar to that with Viola or Violet, how she was like a secret princess, and she was an enemy, then turned to so it's an iteration kind of on that, but it's to a much more extreme degree. Mm-hmm. It feels fresh. It's not just the same princess dynamic. I like it a lot.
Me too. I agree.
Love pudding. Is that it?
No, there's a lot more.
Oh, okay.
I think this question, I'm going to ask it, and then I'm going to kind of tie it into what we were just talking about. So Sanji Joestar said, "You often get asked what your opinions on some of the supernovas are. Now that you've explored another one of them, what's your opinion on Capone, Gang, Bege?" And I think what's kind of interesting, what you were talking about, of how we were just kind of joking earlier on about how Big Mom's kids just like immediately, or her daughters jump ship.
Literally.
Just kind of like, and we didn't know anything about Bege, so it was kind of just like, oh, she just like immediately jumped ship onto his side and is like ride or die for him. But I think what became interesting as it went on is she wasn't just automatically ride or die for him. He was just actually a really good husband and father. And he genuinely cared about her and the rest of his like gang family in a way that she never experienced with her mom or the rest of her siblings. Mm-hmm. So I think it's kind of interesting because like, we think like, oh, she's just immediately jumped ships for like this guy who we've seen is kind of like a shithead and we don't really care about him. And in fact, he was like one of the supernovas that I was like least interested in just because I like didn't really like him. And then he turns out to actually be awesome.
Yeah.
I think that the story did a really good job even back, like kind of the lead up with him. Like you first see him in Sabaody when he was first introduced, and it's kind of just like, okay, like it's kind of a cool ability, but like, he's kind of cool, but like he just looks kind of not, like I'm not that interested in him compared to some of the other people that we saw. Mm-hmm. He wasn't a standout. And then when we saw him again on Zoe, he was just he just like shot Peckhams and was this like super harsh guy, like you're just like, oh my god, like this guy kind of fucking sucks. Like he went and got in league with Big Mom and is coming over here, betrays his partner. Mm-hmm. So like, oh, he has no loyalty, but it's like, as we find out, he had extreme loyalty to his crew, not to Big Mom's crew. So, and like even to the point that at the end when they're like sailing away and they lose their ship and they almost all die, and because he is so loyal to his wife and she is so loyal to her sister and also to Nami and the Straw Hats for helping them out and helping Lola out. So it's like I feel like the switch up of his character was interesting because they introduce him and he doesn't seem like that great of a guy. We see him again, he really doesn't seem like a good guy. Mm-hmm. And then he's planning to kill Big Mom and you're like, okay, this guy just betrays everyone that he meets. We don't care, like, what's to like about this guy? We're getting into a deal with him. I don't know about that. Like, he's probably gonna betray us. And then he doesn't. Mm-hmm. I feel like his arc was really good. Yeah. I feel like I enjoyed him a lot, and his relationship with his crew and also his wife and kid.
I agree.
That's the thing when you see that they have a kid and then the kid's like got the 5 o'clock shadow and it's like looks like he's smoking and you're just like, this guy, there's no way this guy cares about this kid, but then he does. I like it. I think that's fun. Mm-hmm. Solitary Lark asked, since we've now had several supernovas return, if you were to hazard a guess, who do you think from the group is appearing next? And I guess we kind of already know this because Bonnie showed up in Reverie. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited for that because she was from the beginning, I feel like they were making her seem a little bit more important than some of the other people.
Yeah.
And now just with what we've got already.
She's a princess.
Yeah, princess. She's got the pink hair that should have been a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested to see how that kind of goes. And I'm hoping, after we kind of, we were just talking about Pudding, of how she was kind of the princess of this arc. But with a little bit of a twist, and she had a little bit more agency, and she was, not just a damsel in distress, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see because Bonnie obviously is nowhere near us right now. I'm interested to see how she gets more incorporated into the story, and what that kind of means.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we know that Kid is like locked up with Kaido.
Mm-hmm.
So we will probably
Maybe
see him
squad
there.
up with him.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he'll end up having to get into alliance with us in order to rescue him.
Triple threat alliance.
Sean the Bomb said, Katakuri is one of the first major opponents Luffy fights who isn't truly a villain. Did that change how invested you were in the fight compared to fights against characters like Crocodile or Doflamingo?
As it went on, for sure.
It definitely impacted. I think being able to see and I think there's more questions about this, but Katakuri and Luffy kind of grow simultaneously with each other was huge, because normally it's just purely opposing outlooks or ideologies, and the main character is going to win, so they just slowly like beat away, and the villain keeps, no, but I'm right, and then they're not, and they get beaten in the end. So I think that this one was interesting because it evolved. The fight really evolved, and it was a little bit stretched out. But I think that it was. I think that it was good, and I think that I was a lot more invested in it than with a lot of the other fights.
Yeah, actually, no. As we're talking about it, yeah, I think so. I think the fact that he wasn't like a big dumb idiot villain or something, or like somebody even like the best I think equivalent would be Rob Lucci, where he's like a cool aura-y guy with like a cool devil fruit or whatever, and he's not the main bad guy. He's like Spandam is like the kingpin, and then he's just like the lieutenant guy who's there to fight Luffy. But with Katakuri, the fact that he wasn't like a villain, the fact that he was there doing kind of the same thing, he had similar morals to Luffy, where he's just about protecting his family, and don't punch my little sister or whatever, like don't hurt my little sister, like all this type of stuff, like that I think endears us more to him for sure. And I think overall true.
Yeah. This one was really long, but I'll read some of it. David P. said, "This is my take on the final fight. My question is, after reading this, what is your opinion and thoughts on Oda when it comes to shonen battle fights? His growth during the series and in comparison to other mangaka." Sorry if this is too long. But he talks a bit about the Katakuri and Luffy fight is pure poetry. They fight in the mirror world just as reflections. They start to look more and more similar to each other. And while they both start fighting to protect their family, as hours go by, it becomes about their respect and surpassing each other. I feel like that's what makes this fight so good. And I feel like there were times earlier on in One Piece where it would just be like, it would be a lot more basic. So I feel like Oda choosing to use the big fight to explore these things, and not only that, but it's also exploring the themes of like the entire arc and everything about the families and the bonds between people, and I feel like it did a lot. I feel like it said a lot. I think that being in the mirror world not only was a cool visual setting, but also said something about the fight. And we talked about that before, of like, we talk all the time about Luffy versus Rob Lucci, and they're just in a room with frickin' boxes, and they just keep smashing each other into boxes, and it just seems like, okay, this fight could have been anywhere. The scenery and the setting is not really adding to the fight or saying anything. And I think that this one was a time where the mirrors were, and like the mirrors get shattered, like it's like you think you know yourself, and then it gets like kind of the image kind of gets broken, but there's all these reflections and all these different angles, and how Luffy is like rubber and he's always bouncing back, and Mochi is kind of bouncing back too, but Mochi obviously can get like sticky and
It has
melted.
the properties of both rubber and gum.
And it's not as resilient as rubber at the end of the day. So I feel like there's a lot of cool things, and I think putting Luffy up against someone that was so similar to him in terms of powers and in terms of caring about people. Like, we know Katakuri was, he's not the captain of the Big Mom Pirates, but he's kind of the person that all of his siblings look up to. And he tries to protect them, and I really liked his relationship with Brûlé, and then I liked how he, what even was her name, Champe or whatever. Champe, like, she kind of sucked, but I liked when she first came into the fight, I was like, this was so unnecessary, but seeing the way that it ended up, I ended up liking it, because I think it showed there's so many of the siblings, they're not all that close, and some things are superficial, but him and Brûlé had a real connection in, like, that group of siblings.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that this was different to a lot of fights in other, compared to other shonen stories, and compared to a lot of other fights in One Piece.
Because I don't think it's that controversial to say that, like, as far as what is really intriguing about One Piece, the fights, mechanically the fights themselves, and like the strategy of each fight is not really the highlight of the series. That's not really. I think that's, I don't, again, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's like, that's why you would watch something like Hunter x Hunter. That's like a big part of Hunter x Hunter is the abilities of Nen, and how the power system interacts with itself, or stands, or whatever, in a different way. But yeah, like, with One Piece, it normally is like, just, they have opposing ideologies. Sooner or later, Luffy is going to punch them and win. Like, that's kind of how it goes. And that's what I think I mentioned specifically. That's what I was worried about this fight becoming. But I had hope, because I had heard that this was like a highlight fight in the series. So I was pleasantly surprised by how they worked everything in, and how, the idea of, your mask slipping, and the mirror breaking, like how you were saying, with Katakuri presenting a certain image of himself, and then that being shattered, and then as opposed to Luffy, who's all about like telling the truth and being yourself. He literally like doesn't know how to lie, really. And how they like learn from each other kind of without even needing to talk. Like it's very good. It's a very good fight.
Yeah, I really like it. Sanji Joestar said, "What are your thoughts on the various kind of familial bonds explored in this arc? And what do you think of Brûlé choosing to announce that Katakuri lost to her siblings?"
What do you think about that?
I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it, I guess, until
like instead of saying he won, like, what is she gonna say? He didn't win. Like, he got his ass kicked. Or is it just like Luffy? She could have said Luffy got away.
Luffy escaped. She could have said, "Oh, Peckham's came in and Luffy escaped," or something like that. I think what I like about it is it's kind of like getting rid of this like facade that's kind of been going on, that he's
kind of like setting him free.
Katakuri can still be the epic mythic badass that he is,
and enjoy
donuts and enjoy laying on his back. You can be a guy that falls down and gets back up, and that's what Luffy is. Luffy is the guy that no matter how many times he gets knocked down, it doesn't matter if he's got knocked down on his back. He's been knocked down on his back 1,000,000 times in the show, but he will always get back up, and that's more important. And I think that, kind of setting Katakuri free from this, like, prison that he's put himself in. And, the siblings are going to take it or leave it. It's up to them, but it shouldn't matter. So I kind of like it, and I kind of like, Brûlé taking that step when Katakuri couldn't. Like, she knew all the time that he was lying and that he laid on his back and ate donuts every day, because she said that she could see him through the mirrors. But like the other people didn't, but she never thought bad of him for it. And, I think it was good. And we've kind of talked a little bit about it, but I do love all of the different versions of like mothers and fathers and siblings and everything throughout this arc. I think that it's, even with like, Chopper and Carrot, they become kind of siblings with each other, adoptive siblings. And, so that's kind of showing, like, this chosen family similar to, like, Bege and, like, all of his guys, like, their chosen family, whereas Big Mom is creating this large biological family, but they aren't truly loyal to each other and are a lot of times superficial and don't actually care about each other.
Yeah.
Well, there are some true bonds in there, but it's not just determined, just because you're family.
Yeah.
That you're gonna automatically.
And then, like, the difference as well, like, comparing it to Germa, where Germa, they're, like, the brothers and Reiju, to an extent, have had their personalities, like, flattened. It's like all of Big Mom's, she wants to, like, collect all of these different peoples and everything and, like, build this super family with, like, all these different traits. But then there's Germa, which is, like, every single person needs to be, like, a blank slate. And then you see the devil in both of those details, where Judge is, like, alone. Like, his kids don't even care if they live or die. Like, and all of his soldiers, like, don't care if they live or die.
Us. It's just like, what?
Like, what are you talking about? And he's, like, literally crying as he's seeing everything. And he's just like, yeah, this is what you built. This is literally the seeds you have sown. And now, like, it's time. And compared to Big Mom, where she wants to encourage all of these different idiosyncrasies and stuff like that, but only for her own use, like, and not really for any kind of love, just to, like, do what she like, for this weird, to repair this wound where she feels like that's what's right, because that's what Mother Caramel did. But even that is based on a lie, because Mother Caramel was just trying to sell them. So, like, yeah, I like how you see like completely different ends of the spectrum there with both of those families represented. It's really cool. Yeah,
I like it. I think it's a very interesting thing, and it's very simple, and it can be shown in so many different ways. It was good. Oh shoot, I thought I had something else to say about that. Maybe not. Oh. Bootyman555 said, I seem to recall Carson being rather suspicious of our bird friends over at the news coup in earlier arcs. I'm curious of how both of you feel about Morgan's the goat and what he means to the story. How does he fit in? Why do you think Oda decided to introduce him now of all times? What's his purpose? Where will he go? Is he done? Will he be important? Things like that. Also follow up, wedding cake or donuts? And then he said, I can't believe I wasted my whole cake question on big news Morgans.
I need to take care of the spider.
Oh my god, it's huge.
This thing is off, right? Oh. As I knock over my fucking water. Oh no, as my veil falls off. Okay, that was off. Okay, what was I saying?
Big news Morgans.
Big news. I like him. What else is there to say about him though? Like, I think, oh shit. He's like, is this supposed to be like he's controlling all of the fucking news coups?
Well, I think he's like the guy that, like...
Well, he's in charge of them, but, like, is it like his devil fruit power to control them?
Oh. That would be kind of crazy.
Or is he just a fucking bird man, and he can kind of talk to them like how Chopper talks to animals?
Maybe? I think...
I like him. He's funny. But is there anything more to say about him?
I like the idea of him sort of seeing who's behind the news and seeing that he, like, hypes things up a little bit more to, like, elicit responses and to create... like, the world government didn't declare Luffy being an emperor. He just decides to put in the front page of his paper that Luffy is now the 5th emperor. Yeah. Just to stir shit up.
I will say I'm surprised that there's not more oversight on him based on what happened kind of with Roger and his name being changed and shit like that. Like, with how hardcore they are about controlling everything. The fact that he is mostly a free enterprise, other than if they really want to come down on him. I wonder if we're going to see more of his interactions with, like, Akainu or other people of that nature. Like, is he going to be, like, choked up against the wall, be like, you better not fucking print this, like, type thing, like...
Yeah, like, I kind of wonder how much, if there's stuff that is off limits and he's not allowed to write about, or... Yeah. Yeah, like, I wonder where the line is on that. Maybe it's just as long as nothing is, like, against the Marines, but then that's not very good because, like, stuff hyping up pirates is just notoriously not very good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Why did Stussy out herself as a CP0 agent after all that time undercover? Was there a reason, or is it just like, she's cooler as an agent? Let's just keep her as an agent.
I don't know.
Because like Morgan's, I think, was the only guy who she confessed that she was a CP0 agent, but he's like, again, he's kind of like with the government. So as long as he doesn't tell anybody, there's not a reason for her to like out herself to everybody else.
Maybe she just was... I don't know.
W. Morgans. Worgans.
Yeah. I don't know about her, but anyway. Swoobmeister said, what do you think of each of the sweet generals and their role in the story? Were they utilized well?
Daifuku was a sweet general, right? He was one of the sweet three, right?
Wasn't it just Katakuri, Smoothie, and Cracker?
Because there were the ministers of something, but the generals were like Katakuri. I thought there was like sweet.
Yeah, Katakuri, Smoothie, and Cracker. I don't know why I said flour.
That's odd. Anyway, whatever.
I
think Smoothie was really underutilized.
I would have liked to see Smoothie
she
more.
turned out to kind of just be captain, like, you know, like how a random one of the like lower vice admirals would be like chasing around people. Like, you know, she kind of just ended up being like, and the fact that she had like other sisters who were just other shittier versions of her. It's like the fact that Oda felt like she needed other little dudes, like other little like fucked up versions of her to like elevate her status, to me says that he doesn't think that she was enough on her own. I think she didn't get enough build up preemptively.
Well, I think that she got some build up, and I think that she was cool. I think her ability was cool. I think
maybe it's not a build up problem.
It might have been a problem of like if she was to get in close quarters combat with anyone, she can't do it because she would literally suck the life out of them and actually like kill. Like, it might have just been a situation like that where it's just like, okay, this ability is super cool and super intimidating, but we can't let her actually get someone with it because the consequences will be devastating. Yeah. And it would be a bit much. So I think that she, you know, was maybe not the best. I think Katakuri was utilized really well. I think we already talked about his fight with Luffy.
Cracker was used pretty well as a setup for the level of strength that we're going to be dealing with. The fact that, you know, Luffy defeated him basically down to a fluke that, like, they were able to exploit the one weakness of his ability. Mm-hmm. Along with a transformation that we hadn't seen before. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that they were good. I do wish that we had a little bit more from Smoothie because her design was epic. She had a lot of aura. Her ability was like super horrific. Like when she was like, "Oh, what do you want to drink?" And it was like a giraffe, a woman, and like. I can't remember what it was, like some type
devil
of like
fruit eater or something,
or like a rock or something. I can't remember what it was. It was like something weird, but yeah, I think that she was cool. But I did end up feeling like she wasn't any stronger or weaker than just like other like ministers that weren't generals. But I think that was maybe just due to there wasn't a place for her to have like an actual fight with people.
Yeah, and honestly, if I have to choose between what we got and Enies Lobby 2.0, where everybody has a matchup and Chopper has to go fight Smoothie or something. Yeah. Like, I would way rather have what we had. This is a lot better.
I loved like the Luffy fight being a big
and then more of an encounter and like escape. Like you know, like there's more going on, going from island to island. Like
I felt like
the challenges that they felt Jinbei at the helm, that type of shit. That's way more interesting than just like a bunch of random fights with fucking random like one-on-ones. Like to see, especially in a show where the power system is not so serious. Like it's not about like, oh, I wonder what will happen when this person's Nen comes up against this, like, or this person's stand. How are they going to interact with this person's stand? It's like they have hockey or they have devil fruits, and it's like, oh, how is the Chopper's devil fruit gonna stack up against Smoothie? It's like there's not really an interaction. There's not like chemical reaction there waiting to happen, you
Yeah.
know? Like, whereas something like with Nami and Zeus, like that's something like where there's some overlap, and it's cool seeing how those things interact, and there's like a cool thing to come from that. But yeah, so like as far as Smoothie, maybe we could have seen more of her, but
I'm glad
like,
it wasn't forced.
Yeah, true.
Kiki Varas said, overall, what is something you wish the arcs would overall improve on? And in terms of writing, plot, characters, etc., what is something you liked in this arc that you'd wish would be in the next arcs as well? I think that, like, we did talk a lot about, like, what made this arc a real standout. I think, based off of what the brief glimpse into the start of Wano that we got, I think that the theming being strong is going to carry on, and I think that that was a big improvement of this arc, because I think that it carries everything else. And I think that a lot of times in earlier One Piece, there would be the theming, but it wouldn't be 100% realized, you know, like
there wasn't a commitment to it, like,
yeah, and not like, it wasn't a commitment in like, he just wasn't committed, he wasn't trying hard enough, like, not like that. It's just like, I feel like now
the story gets away from you, and then that becomes the focus, not like the setting or things like that, you know. Like,
I think that having the super strong themes and having it envelop every part of the story, you know, I think that that's good, and that's what I most want to see going forward, because I think, you know, I've liked most of One Piece, but I think that this arc had things that like truly like blew me away.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree.
And I think that in previous times it would be like, this arc is way better than the last, or, you know, this arc is better than that because of this. But I think that this one is, not only I liked it more than a lot of other arcs, I think it was objectively better in terms of the writing.
Right.
So it was good. Nicholas LeBlanc said, the Whole Cake Island arc main villain was too strong for Luffy and his crew to face and win. W. Brook fight versus Big Mom. Would you want to see this scenario happen again?
No.
Yeah, I think here's the thing. I think that it could be, I think that Kaido might be too strong for the Straw Hats to defeat on their own, but I think combined with Law, combined with all of the Minks, combined with potentially the fleet coming to help, combined with Kid maybe joining up with him, I think that because the gap between Luffy and an Emperor is still not even close, but I wouldn't want to see the same thing happen again. I like that this is maybe more of a unique thing, and we'll come back for Big Mom later.
Yeah.
But I think that it would get old really fast if we saw it again right away.
I agree.
I think that, you know, I'm not saying that I don't want them to ever lose or ever to be up against something that's too big for them again, but I think this specific scenario really worked because it was new and it was fresh, and it was kind of a win in some ways, but not a win in other. You know, it wasn't a defeat. Like, we've had defeats before. This was, we did what we came to do. We got Sanji. We got the poneglyph things. We you know, saved Pound, and he got reunited. Like, you know, that was really good. So I think that there was a lot of good things that came in, but Luffy, even from the start, like, they knew that they weren't going in there to defeat Big Mom. So they didn't actually fail because they didn't defeat her, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, my problem with that question is that I think, and I don't know if it was intentionally worded this way, but it implies that, like, would you rather it happen this way or the way it always happens, which is where Luffy defeats them. I don't think the solution is either of those options. I would like every arc to end differently from here on out, and everything to be mostly different until the end, where, you know, things can be a little more classic or be more callbacky. But, like, my preferred thing is not, you know, for Luffy and all them to go up against Kaido, have to run away, and then live to fight another day. I think probably them getting, you know, this is a learning experience, and then now Luffy's way stronger, and he'll get stronger over the next arc. Maybe he'll come up to some kind of power up while they're exploring Wano. But I also don't want him to just 1v1 Kaido and beat him. You know, like, with all these other opportunities, like you're saying, with all these other characters, one thing Oda is hesitant to do is to have Luffy's sort of win be like shared. Like he doesn't like Luffy being the big hero is a big deal, and somebody can help him get to that point, or like literally transportation wise, like that, like Fukaboshi can like carry him through over to Horty Jones before they have like their big fight, and Bellamy can like be there, like, and Law can like teleport Luffy in one quick movement or whatever, but like Luffy needs to beat the bad guy. I want to, like, I don't know if this is the answer. This is just what came to my mind. But, yeah, involve Kid, involve Law, involve Zoro, something in the big fight to, like, change it and make it feel bigger. Something, like, that's why Nightmare Luffy, we always go back to that because it felt so unique, where all of the other characters were, like, giving pieces, basically their souls, to help Luffy and power him up. And then he was able to show out a little bit more, and that made it a little bit more dynamic than just Luffy going and fighting Moria. So I if the choice is, but I don't want the choice to just be between Luffy punches the guy and wins, or we run away. I want there to be a little bit more dynamic stuff going on there.
100 Rainy, we kind of already answered the first part of this question previously. But they asked, was our victory/escape far too clean, or did we lose just as much as we gained in Whole Cake Island?
I think, like, if Pedro survived, if everybody survived, I would be upset. But the fact that we literally like lost Pedro and it was serious and he's fucking dead, and it had an effect on people, that's all I need. Even if he was doomed from the start and that was his purpose.
It still shows some real consequences.
Yeah.
Because we did have a lot of victories in Whole Cake. Like we were just saying, like, we got what we wanted to get, but it came at a cost.
Yeah.
And I feel like the idea that you can't just swindle an emperor when you're not on their level and completely get away with it is important. Because it, if everyone just made it out of there, no scratches, and everyone just,
that'd be lame.
It wouldn't be the same. So I think the decision to kill off Pedro, I feel like that did a lot of the heavy lifting, because obviously he's not going to kill off one of the Straw Hats just because we went to, fight Big Mom.
Yeah.
And Luffy wouldn't leave if someone else got kidnapped or something. So I think that it was a good thing where, it was sad, but he was kind of doomed, and he did know that he was probably going to die when he went there. So it makes it a little bit more, okay. If Carrot died, then that would have been, like, really upsetting, and just, that would have been fucked up. If Carrot died and then Pedro survived and he's like, I'm going to literally die tomorrow anyway.
That would be sad.
That would have been crazy. But yeah, I think it was good, and I feel like our escape felt earned, and I feel like it felt like it was a challenge to escape. We kind of just got out of there, and we only got out of there because we were like, other people were helping as well. I think it was good. Chetta Slammer said, if you could live on one of the islands around Whole Cake, which island would you live on?
Was there a fruit one?
Oh, I didn't know if there was a fruit one. A fruit one would be so good.
I can't remember them.
I don't know if we heard about that. I would just live on one of those.
Definitely not the nut one.
Yeah, I feel like it would get old fast. Yeah. Same with, like, chocolate. It's hard to commit.
I can't remember all of them, so I'll just say chocolate because that's just the one I remember, and I like chocolate.
I mean, the nut one would probably be the healthiest. If there was a fluff island or something, like a cotton candy kind of island.
Yeah, you're right. The nut one would be best. That has the most protein. Maybe I'll go there.
Or I don't know, if there's one that's like like Jello, that'd be kind of fun. Or like cake. I like cake. I'd honestly just kind of want to be in the main island because they have like so many things. Yeah. But it's dangerous because Big Mom is there.
Definitely don't want to be there.
Semrath Pal Sing Thind. Probably pronounced that a little bit not very good.
No, you're fine. That was perfect.
Who is your favorite character between Caesar Clown, Pharmacist Cedar, and Gangster Gastino?
Definitely Gangster Gastino, because that's the G.
Yeah, he's got the G.
Easy.
Gangster Gastino is pretty funny, so I'll have to say that. But I think if I had to say my favorite character would be OG Caesar Clown, like back before he became
like literally character assassinated and just became a fucking idiot.
And I know people have explained, and like it does kind of make sense, but I don't like it.
I didn't like that people we were complaining about it, and then people said like, oh, he's already been like that for some time. It's like, that's not the point. Like, we didn't complain about it at first because we knew people wouldn't like it. That it sucks. Like he had some aura, but the fact that he's like this now and he was always like this then, it makes him worse then. Like it just
retroactively assassinates his character.
You retconned him into a worse guy, like for no reason, just for a joke. He's been with us for like half the series now, by the way. Like, how long? Like, literally almost like 300 episodes? When was Punk Hazard? He's literally been with us so fucking long. It's crazy to think about how he's a main character. He's more a part of the crew than Jinbei is at this point. Bro, it's crazy.
That's so funny. Alex Record says, for a lot of fans after Punk Hazard, they keep updating their favorite arc. Everything keeps ramping, lore going deeper. It can be a recency bias. But is this happening to you guys too? Or do you still feel like Marineford / Ennis Lobby is still at the top? Enjoying this post-Punk Hazard stretch is what separates the pre-time skip enjoyers versus the post-time skip enjoyers.
I feel like we've answered this one. Like we've already talked about how we agree that the story's getting better. We also have never been the type, I don't know if you're newer, I don't think you are, but we were never that crazy about Ennis Lobby the same way that other people were. Mm-hmm. It's obviously very good. Or even Marineford to a certain extent. Like we love Marineford as well. But we don't I think compared to the deification that most One Piece fans hold those two arcs to because of their like, just aura and like the fighty nature of them. We aren't on that level. We definitely prefer things more like Whole Cake Island and this kind of shit way more for sure.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that to death.
Yeah. But I don't necessarily think it's because like, oh, I just like stuff post time skip more. I think that post time skip is just refining, especially in Whole Cake Island, is like refining a lot of the things that I really enjoyed about certain arcs pre-time skip.
Yeah. Genuinely, I like post-time skip more than I thought I would based on like how we had gotten into it and how people talked about it. I just wish it looked like around Ennis Lobby. Like, I wish the show, when it changed to HD, whenever that was, I think that was around Water 7 times, but it still had that OG style to it. I wish the show just looked like that forever. Because I think the biggest fucking problem with the post-time skip stuff is that we get just like PNGs moving and characters changing sizes like insanely. Like Jinbei turning into a fucking giant, Nami turning into a Tontata tribe member on his back. Like shit like that. And it's just like there's no oversight. Everything's so rushed. Every episode is as cheap as possible. And it's annoying. And it's not a problem with the story. It's not a problem with the writing. I think if you were reading it, it would be a completely different fucking experience. Mm-hmm. I just really, and the character designs, like I think if the character designs weren't changed so much from pre to post time skip, I think just the aura of how the show felt and looked back in the day is so strong. And that's really what I think the biggest thing missing post time skip. It has nothing to do with the writing as far as I can tell. Or even like, like with the songs and the presentation, like they have strokes of directing genius. And, the show's not bad. The writing's not bad. It's just like sometimes the fucking pacing is dog shit. And we're hearing Wedding Cakey for fucking 20, 30 episodes. And it can get kind of annoying. I don't know. This is the whole, I guess I'm just talking generally about the pre versus post time skip. Because I'm also surprised, that we end up liking a lot of this stuff more. I thought that because of how people talked about it, I thought for sure it's like, okay, I'm gonna feel so nostalgic about all the stuff, and I do feel nostalgic about a lot of the earlier stuff, especially because we weren't appreciating it as much at the time. But that's just kind of how it goes. It's I like this stuff a lot in a lot of cases more than early One Piece, or like I don't know. take it arc by arc, but you know what I mean.
I think that what's been happening is there's earlier on there was like a lot of these like big emotional moments and they felt very fresh, and then like as they went on they started to feel a little bit less fresh, and the arc couldn't rely on just a singular emotional buildup, and then now especially in Whole Cake it's like kind of transforming and it's going for more of a broad theme rather than a one singular emotional outburst.
Yeah.
And so I think that I like that and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Another one from Osama Esmati who said, does the existence of Emu reframe the entire series? Before Reverie, the world government seemed like a corrupt institution, and now it may have a hidden singular will. Does this make the conflict more mythic, political, or sinister?
If you're a normie who didn't see this coming, then I think absolutely. No, that's too strong. It's not like I saw something like this happening or called this or something. But the idea that the world government is just this corrupt, like, institution and doesn't have, like, a secret purpose that's always something that we've said probably isn't true. Just, like, the way that the Five Elder Stars operate and just, like, what would be the purpose of trying to get this much control? Like, who would want the world to be like this? Like, unless you're just literally Doflamingo evil, but like these guys don't seem like they're just evil for evil. They're probably holding back a greater evil. Like there's probably more going on. And I think with Emu Sama, maybe it's more pride based just by how he's kind of presented and with the throne and shit like that. But I still think like the whole idea that there's, you know, maybe it's sinister, maybe it is evil, but like that there's a greater thing going on behind the world government, that it's not just them trying to like protect the ruling class just because of classism or you know, whatever.
I think that's the thing is like I never really suspected at least that there would be like a person in this way, but more like they're doing this for a reason, and it's maybe not the reason that we think because they know what happened in the Void Century. But now I think what's changed is maybe the Five Elder Stars literally do not even know what happened. They just have ultimate faith in Emu, and he knows what happened, whether or not because he was alive back then because he's immortal, or you know, something else, or he has like the knowledge fruit, or like, you know, there could be many reasons why he is so kind of this like kind of all-knowing godlike figure. I'll say this other question, it's kind of similar. Jack Shadow said, in the One Piece community, there's a lot of arguing going on about Shadow King Emu. What are your thoughts on this? Did Oda plan this, or just add in Emu as a sultan? The question is important because the Gorosei were introduced long before, and we never saw them serving the Shadow King, despite all Masonic pyramid references.
I don't know. I think that if it's the kind of thing I think Oda would have had planned and just didn't foreshadow it, you know?
I think...
but you know, because there's no inkling of it at all for 900 episodes, I think that it's not unreasonable to think that he's adding this in to elevate the last arc as a kind of sultan, or the last saga.
However,
act.
I do think because it did seem obvious from the start that the Five Elder Stars did have some type of, not necessarily an ulterior motive, but a goal or a greater purpose that they're doing this all for. I think whether or not he originally intended that to be they're enacting the will of a specific person or a king versus they're enacting the will of the original Five Elder Stars from 800 years ago that decided that things needed to be a certain way because of what we don't know from the Void Century, but they knew. Whether or not that was originally going to be like kind of condensed, that like idea of this like great idea was going to be condensed down into the will of a singular person, maybe or maybe not that was planned from the start, but I think that if it wasn't, this was just Oda's has decided that this is the best way to go along with what I think he was always intending to do with the Five Elder Stars of having, it's just the easiest way to show this motive without it just getting kind of messy and complicated and like so much talking. You know, because it might take a lot of yapping to show like, oh, maybe they have something secret going on and they're discussing amongst themselves. Or if a guy just walks in, goes up to the throne, that says a lot more without saying very much. And they ask him, instead of, oh, okay guys, let's have a discussion about who we need to kill in order to prevent what's happening from happening. They ask this guy, and he had already thought about it and, gone through all the mug shots of people and sliced them up and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that it's just a more mysterious way of doing the same thing. Whether it's 5 old guys in a room who are mysterious, but also have lost a lot of their mystery over the last 20 years of kind of people speculating and agonizing over them. Is that more mysterious and dramatic, or is it more dramatic that there's a literal Shadow King pulling strings from the shadows?
But what I will say is I don't necessarily feel like this is like what you were talking about when you were talking about adding in the Sultans of the Sea.
That's not what I was talking about, yeah.
Yeah, like I know this person was just saying like they were using that as an example, but I feel like this is different than the idea of like the 3 sultans of the sea, because the sultans is a thing that is just added in to elongate the story.
It would be a gap between Emu and the emperors. That was the idea, my idea with the 3 great sultans of the sea, with people like Judge on that level, like people like Germa, who are on the level of emperors or higher, if that's like the height of their power or whatever, who are like controlling things. It's like, oh, we never heard about them, but they're a big power. Emu is not quite what I meant. You're right.
He's filling in a spot that was clearly already like established. Like the idea of him wasn't necessarily established, but the position that he's filling within the story
as just a ultimate enemy. That's just a way to focus the ending towards a point, towards him. That's different than adding another act to the fucking story of, there's a secret. Anyway.
And it doesn't feel like, oh, the 5 Elder Stars are now just a stepping stone towards him. It seems like they are like his fingers almost. Like they are enacting his will.
Yeah.
And he has always been there. And there's nothing foreshadowing him within the story directly, but there's also nothing contradicting that he had been there the whole time. So I think
I really feel like Oda could have just like the fact that I like, if I'm being 100% serious, it seems like he was just added in, but it's not the kind of thing that I'm just mad about because of like what we're saying. All it does is focus it towards a point. In a perfect world, Oda could have shown the throne or mentioned the throne. Maybe he did and we just don't remember because we're 900 episodes in, but I don't remember anything about the empty throne.
No.
That felt very new. If he could have mentioned that pre-time skip or around the time of the time skip, that would have, I think, alleviated a lot of this. But, like, I don't really care about that in this case. There's some cases where I'm just like, okay, you're just having it your way. Like, you're just giving up on these plot threads because and sometimes it's for the best. Sometimes it's because it just seems like it's too complicated and it would have been a lot better, but there's just not enough time for, whatever the case may be, whether it's a character or a power or a something, or a location or whatever. There's clearly cases where he just kind of ditches stuff or just like adds something in to like do something. There's some cases where it's where I don't really like it or where, I can't really prove it. It's like, I'm like Doke. So I'm like, oh, I can't prove that he just added this shit in, but I know basically, but, or I think I know, I just suspect. In this case, I don't have a problem with him just adding in Emu as like an ultimate threat villain. Because it just makes it so that when we get to the end, we'll have something to focus on, and it will simplify a lot of. It's like you know what it is. It's because we're talking in Whole Cake about fucking Game of Thrones, and what happened with Game of Thrones? We kept getting bigger, and the world kept expanding, and in A Song of Ice and Fire, and now it's just never gonna be finished, and because the story got so big and it got so complex and the lore got so deep that it was like. To shrink it down means doing a lot of the things that One Piece does that we sometimes are like, is that a retcon or is that like, did he plan that plan from the start? Shrinking a story of the size of like A Song of Ice and Fire or One Piece requires a lot of that tapering and that just like cutting off of these things, like kind of unsatisfying endings here or there to make way for an ultimate satisfying ending at the very end. So if that I think that's what Oda's doing is he's learning from George R.R. Martin's failures, basically, where George wasn't able to do that. This is the kind of thing that sometimes needs to be done, where there was build up for this, maybe some that we forgot, but seemingly not. And but is it for the best? I think yes. I think that it will make the story better in the end if we have this guy to focus on, or in whatever way that it does. We don't know exactly how it will, but I think that the fact that there's this mysterious guy versus 5 old dudes, you know, I like this better. Yeah. I think that this will serve the story more as he tapers down into one point to end on.
And I think post time skip, these things that are being added in with like little to no foreshadowing, like suddenly Sabo is here and he's a person, and
he was super famous. Everybody knew about him, but we never heard about him even once.
And you know, Emu and like things like that. I feel like it's because like One Piece kind of entered into the second phase, and Oda had a lot more clear vision of where the story was going to end up. So now I feel like when things are getting added in, it's quite intentional with the purpose of, okay, he knows where this is going to end, or he knows how this is going to affect the ending, or like a piece on the way to the ending. So it's all happening for a reason.
Yeah. I think that he's always kind of known where it's going to go. He's just he's now getting pushed more and more as time goes on to end it. And he's realizing, like, I imagine just you sit down each arc and then we have like a powwow, like the Reverie arc or Jaya or whatever, where we're just like, okay, so like you kind of zoom out from that arc and you're like, all right, what are we looking at here? We got about 500 or so chapters till we end this fucker. We are not prepared for that. Like, because he probably sees just the end battle and like all the shit that needs to happen before and then he's just like, okay, well, if this is going to be revealed there, then that needs to be set up. We need to start doing shit. Okay, how are we even going to be able to set that up? Okay, we need to start introducing the concept of this or that. All right, Emu, fucking Shadow Lord. All right, now we have a thread leading directly to the end. I'm not going to pile on everything here, but then I imagine in this next arc we're going to be hearing a little bit about something to do with Emu, about something to do with the fucking 5 Elder Stars, or more with Joy Boy. We're going to get a bunch more, obviously, because we're going with Momo and all the fucking people who like their clan, who about like, the poneglyphs, stuff like that. But like he's now like, think about Oda. He gets on a tip, and now he's like he feeds into that for the next couple arcs. We're on his tip now. We're on Oda's tip now. Stay with me now. We're on Oda's tip. We're on his Emu tip, and we're going to learn things about all that shit. He's going to stay on that, in that headspace. He's thinking about it. It's going to take him a few weeks. Over the next few chapters, he's going to be thinking about it. We're going to get a big fucking lore drop in the middle of this arc, and it's going to, or at least a bunch of clues, and then the next recap arc, we're going to be...
Yeah. I think you're kind of right of, like, narrowing things down, and, like, things are becoming a little bit more interconnected. Because, like, I think about Bonnie, and I think about... And even Bege, and all of these supernovas are introduced, and then it's kind of like, okay, what do we do with them?
Yeah.
What do we tie them to?
And we know that Oda like made them fucking the night before or whatever, and then they turned out to be huge hits.
So I kind of like this like deliberate incorporation of like, okay, we're gonna tie Bonnie into Kuma, and she's at the Reverie, and she's doing this, and she's kind of getting tied in now with the Revolutionary Army maybe, because they're both there and they're both trying to help Kuma, and like Sabo's there and everything, and then it's like, okay, and we have Bege, and he got tied in with the Big Mom Pirates, and he's with Chiffon, who's in with Lola. Like, all of these things are kind of becoming a little bit closer and a little bit more connected, which I think is good. Like, as we're like, because you add in like all these different characters, and they're all supposed to be off doing their own things, and then it's like, okay, and how do we need to like corral them in a little bit?
Yeah.
And like, dial it back into the story, and I think that's good.
Yeah.
Charlie said, the last 300 episodes have been building up to Wano. Where do you think the story will go after Wano? And what do you hope to see, what do you hope to see after Wano? I think it's, where do you think the story will go in Wano, and what do we hope to see after Wano?
We're going to get a bunch of Poneglyph stuff. We're going to get a bunch of One Piece lore, Joy Boy lore. Learn a lot more about what happened with Roger and how Momonosuke knows him. There's a lot built up. We're going to get a bunch of answers, or at least a bunch more like forward-facing questions. And then after Wano, it will be like probably 3 or 4 more arcs until like the final showdown. I think that's that. If I'm plotting it out, that's about what I see. And I think that we're gonna learn more about Vegapunk after Wano. It might not be right after, but it will be after. But yeah, I could see like an arc maybe centered around that.
Because we're gonna, like, all the stuff that's going
Elbaf is just an island that we're going to go to at some point. The last fight might be there. I don't know, but...
Yeah, I think... Yeah, some stuff about Vegapunk, especially now that we're getting it with, like, Kuma and Bonnie and all of that. I think that, like, that's definitely building, but I don't think it's going to be in Wano because, like, Wano's just kind of a totally separate place. And it might be, like, you know, if we do actually come back and fight Big Mom, like... what would that look like? You know, is something going to get incorporated there? Or are they, you know, because they said, like, okay, we can't go after Straw Hat because he's going into Wano and that's kind of out of our domain. But, like, if he can't, if Big Mom makes a move or he comes out to go back to get Big Mom on the, you know, on the way back, you know, maybe something's going to go down there. I don't know. I'm excited for Elbaf. But, like, yeah, I can't really think of, like, too much else that we, like, haven't kind of done. Like, I can't think of... You know, like, there's going to obviously be another interaction with Shanks at some point. And then, obviously, confrontation with Blackbeard, potentially at the end or towards the end. But it's hard to see, like, how all of that's going to fit with, like, okay, the Marines are going to come in at some point, the Five Elder Stars, someone's going to maybe assassinate Vivi, who fucking, like, you know, like, I don't know. But during Wano... kind of like we already talked about, but just to recap, I want to see some of Zoro. I want to see him get some character development. And I'd like to, like, maybe we'll get something, maybe a little something from Chopper there. Could be good.
Yeah.
And I would like to see, like, the teamwork aspect, like we talked about, potentially taking down Kaido.
I mean, they built the thing with Kaido is I feel like you have to do something like that because of... You know, we saw him drop 10,000 feet and not even have a scratch on him. Like, what are we doing here? Like, Luffy's just gonna punch him to death? Like, there's no way. Like, what are we... Like, there's gotta be something else going on. There's gotta be some... We gotta work together here. There's gotta be some trick to it, which I'm very excited about.
I think that's pretty cool. And then... just last kind of one to end it off. Beanie asked, "You're halfway through post-time skip. Congratulations. Now that you've spent more time in this part of the story, I would like to know who are your current favorite Straw Hats and characters and why?"
I think Luffy's grown on me a lot more as the series has gone on.
I was thinking that as well, actually, because I feel like usually in every podcast someone asks this and we usually answer it. And I feel like, I mean, maybe we've said Luffy before, but I feel like this time, like, he was genuinely coming to my mind. Like, I feel like normally...
It's like Luffy, yeah, I guess it's just, Luffy just seems so, I mean, he seems one-dimensional, because he has like one or two modes that he gets into, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and there really is more to him, and we're at the point now where it's undeniable. It's not just like, because you could see it as he made a big point, or he made a big emotional statement. He made a statement, this arc or that arc, that, like, suggested something deeper. But, like, if we continue on and then we don't see that again, then it's like, okay, he had a big, deep moment here, or he has a deep moment in a completely other direction here. But it's you could see it as just like, okay, well, these could just be, like, separate movies of, like, the same, like, Batman or something, like, or Superman, where it's just, like, it's written by a bunch of different people, has a bunch of different themes, is taken a bunch of different directions. See what I'm saying? It could be like that. But we're at the point where it's undeniable. There's clearly more going on with him, like, emotionally. Oda has more inside his head than we can see at any given time. He's more interesting than you might think at the beginning, or even for most of the series. Like, there's the things that he's learned and the things that he's done are actually carrying forward and having an impact on his decision making and the way that he interacts with people. It's not just, you know, the scene calls for this emotion, so Oda gives him that emotion, which I feel like could have been a reasonable interpretation for a lot of One Piece, where it's just like, okay, Oda wants this outcome. He wants this kind of emotion to be felt by the audience, so Luffy's going to exhibit this behavior or emotion in order to elicit what he wants out of his story. But now we're at the point, you can't really say that anymore. And I think that makes me really like Luffy a lot more as a main character, just as a character in general. Yeah. For me, I'd say, I'm comfortable saying Luffy.
And I think like Sanji has, like, returned up to my, like, top characters. Brook was the MVP of the arc, and so was Jinbei, but I don't know if they're like my favorite characters. I could say that Big Mom is one of my favorite characters. Like,
True.
she's not my favorite Straw Hat. She's probably, I think she's my favorite character, just in terms of like, she is a super strong story there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Luffy might be one of my favorites. I think Sanji, not only was this arc really good for him, but I was also influenced by the live action. Like, going by the live action, Sanji is like far and away the best Straw Hat. But I think it'd maybe be like Luffy, Sanji, and maybe Nami again, because I've always really liked Nami, and I feel like she finally was getting some good moments. What were your top 3?
Oh.
That wasn't the question. I'm adding that in.
I don't know. What were yours?
Luffy, Sanji, and Nami.
From this arc, or just up to this point?
Just like currently, what are your favorite?
I feel like I still really like Zoro, and I really like. But it's hard to say that because he's not like we've been saying.
Yeah. Frankie's also really good. He's
yeah, I've been liking. Whenever I think about Frankie, whenever I see his clips or whatever, I really like Frankie. Mm-hmm. I say Luffy. Nami, I don't know.
I don't know.
I feel like Robin has more juice in her. Stay with me now. I feel like Robin has more going on. I feel like Robin could have a comeback. I'm investing in Robin's stock.
Yeah, I do. I mean, in terms of people that I hope have, like, some more stuff, part of me is like, okay, Robin, like, she served her time. She had a really hard time.
For me, my top 3 are Luffy, Robin, Usopp. Those are my top 3.
Actually, I'm kicking Nami out. It's Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp are my favorite. I feel like Usopp has always been, like, in around the favorites for us.
I agree. He's just been edging. Stay with me now. He's been edging the top of our favorites.
I feel like for me personally, I want to see a little bit more from Robin. Like, I want to see more from Zoro and Robin. Like, I feel like I don't really connect to either of them that much as characters.
But I feel like we could.
I feel like I could.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I could. But I feel even more distance with them sometimes than, like, someone like Frankie or Brook. Like,
yeah.
And that could be because Frankie and Brook have just had some, like, renewed
It's also Robin and
moments.
Zoro are a lot more stoic in general.
They're a lot more stoic. But I feel like I would like to see a little bit more from them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, we'll end it off there, I think.
Thanks everybody for tuning in.
And thank you to everyone who submitted questions. Sorry if we didn't get to yours. We, pick out ones that we think are going to be good. And thank you to everyone for doing that.
Praise the sun. Check out my Instagram. Leave a like and subscribe. Say I'm Carson.
I'm Lindsay.
Bye-bye.